it's Keisha. Welcome back to my channel, and if this is your first time here, I do hope you decide to stay and subscribe. And today's video is a fun video. This past weekend I celebrated my birthday and I'm feeling joyous and grateful. As you know, on my social media I share a lot about my struggles with social anxiety and depression, both very heavy topics, especially during this time of year. Usually I'm in hibernation mode just to avoid feeling super sad and depressed. But I've been going hard with my Hi-Go self-care, and I'm feeling excited in all the field of the holiday season. So to commemorate yet another year of life, I wanted to do an About Me tag, but with my own little twist. So I'm sharing 20 insane facts about me. I don't know about you guys, but I love these types of videos. I like to see if my perception of the person matches up with what they share or what we may have in common. So do leave me a comment down below if anything I share surprises you or if we are two of a kind. So without further ado, let's go. The first fun fact about me that I want to share is I taught myself how to ride a bike. I was a late bloomer when it came to riding a bike. For whatever reason, my dad was always busy and no one else was available to teach me to ride a bike. My brother, I have two brothers, at the time they had their little BMX bike crew, and I grew up with the mentality of anything you can do, I can do better. So I never allowed the boys to one up on me with anything. So when I saw them with their little BMX crew, I was determined to learn how to ride a bike. I borrowed a neighbor's bike. Now the neighbor at the time was like 15 or something like that, so he had a full-size adult bike with the seat high and everything because he was tall. I jumped on it. I gave myself a push start, and once I got enough speed, I hopped on it and I started to pedal. Again, it was so high that I was like swaying from side to side trying to, like, you know, pedal the bike, and I got my rhythm. I caught my balance. Everything was cool until it was time to stop. I couldn't figure out how to stop. I think it may have been a fixie bike because there weren't any brakes, and the only way that I could stop myself was either go into traffic or slam into a wall. So I pretty much slammed into a wall. The bike was totaled, the spokes were bent, but I learned how to ride a bike. Soon after that, I pretty much became like, you know, the rabbit that the greyhounds chase in the race to, you know, keep their speed. That was me, pretty much. So yeah, taught myself how to ride a bike, and I became the fastest rider in my brother's bike crew. If you ask them, they may say otherwise, but considering I had just learned how to ride a bike, I will pat myself on the back for that one. The next insane fact is, when I was about 6 or 7, I accidentally got high. Yeah, so my mom was at work. Oftentimes when my mom was at work, we were left in someone's care, and I would be in our yard with all my cousins. This particular day we were running amok around the yard, you know, doing what we do. We got hungry, we were looking for food, so I went in the refrigerator and found a plate of fudge. Now in Belize they make this kind of like a dessert pastry snack kind of thing. I don't know what you guys may refer to, but we call it fudge, and it's pretty much condensed milk mixed with whatever to make it like a caramel kind of consistency. And this particular batch was an edible, unbeknownst to us. So I distributed the fudge to all of my cousins and my brothers, and we proceeded to, you know, go ham on these dessert treats or whatever. All I remember was the fact that we all passed out. When my mom came home from work, usually a certain time of day, you know, when the sun goes down, everyone turns on their light in the yard or the lights in the house. So she came home and the entire yard was pitch black. The doors were open to the house, bodies was on the floor, like each of us had passed out on the way leading to the house, and I just remember just being completely out of it. And if you guys are familiar with that Michael Jackson video where the images morph into someone else's face, that's pretty much what I remember. I remember my mom waking me up and I'm looking at her and I'm hysterically laughing because her face turned into like Queen Latifah, like I was tripping. Yeah, so accidentally got high. Don't judge my mother's parenting skills. Speaking of getting high, I tried indoor skydiving at iFly here in New York as a birthday gift to myself. My birthday was on Saturday and I went on Sunday, and it was amazing. I had zero fear going into this. I had tried ziplining a few years ago, and when I did that, I was terrified. Like, I literally crawled on the trail on the way to, you know, when you had to like get to higher ground in order to do the zip line. Like, I was so terrified, but after doing it and getting such a thrill from it, I have been in thrill-seeking mode. So I scheduled the time slot to do the indoor skydiving, and it was amazing. You should try it. Next insane fact about me is when I was little, I got so upset with my mom, my dad, my godmother, like all of my family members, that I wanted to run away. You know when you watch like those old school cartoons, and whenever the kid decides to run away, they like pack like a bandana with their snacks or their toys or whatever and tie it to a stick and throw it over their shoulder. That's pretty much what I did. I didn't have any toys, so I just packed a snack, and it just so happened when I was leaving out of the yard, this man that we all were familiar with, his name was Ramsey, he had a mule and a cart, which is like, you know, old school way of transportation. So he passed by with a mule and a cart, and I waved him down and I asked if I could get in. He did. He let me in. In this time, we knew him. He was familiar with my family, and I didn't know where he was going, but I was just hoping to just leave. I feel like I wanted to go to like the airport, but again, I didn't know where he was going. I'm like, I'll figure it out when I get there. I believe when I left, it was early in the morning, because again, he usually comes by in the morning with like produce, and he was headed to the market. So when I like woke up, I was at the market, which was pretty much down the street from my house, and I ended up just walking back home. No one knew that I left. No one knew I was missing, but I had all intentions of running away and not coming back. So I told my mom this story. And she definitely said that my ass whooping is 30 years past due. So yeah, I ran away when I was little. Next insane fact about me is I got stabbed in the eye with a pencil. Yeah, stabbed in the eye. So again, another story from when I was little. I had a favorite boy cousin. His name was, we'll call him Joey, just to keep him anonymous in a sense. So my favorite cousin Joey, he was always like a badass. He was a bit of a rebel, you know. In school, he would always get in trouble, always into fights and stuff, but him and I were super cool. This particular day, I don't even think we were arguing or we were at odds about anything. I just know that he threatened to stab me in the eye. I told him to do it, and he did. I feel like he intended to like fake me out, but because I'm kind of like on the bold side, as you may be able to tell, like I have my bold moments, I feel like I kind of leaned into it, so it wasn't supposed to make contact, but because I was like, do it, it ended up stabbing me in my tear duct. But luckily, the Lord was on my side. The lead from the pencil fell out, so it pretty much was just a piece of lead like right in the corner of my eye. He apologized profusely. I wasn't harmed. I wasn't even mad at him. We were like, when this happened, we were walking home, so I pretty much just like flicked it out of my eye, and we just kept walking home like nothing happened. The next insane fact about me is I have a scar on the arch of my right foot. Now, I have a long history with social anxiety, so this particular day, I didn't want to go to school. I begged my mom to let me stay home. I reasoned with her. I asked her, like, if you let me stay, I promise I would clean the whole house for you. Like, I would clean the bathroom, I would clean the kitchen, like I would clean everything. And cleaning is like kind of therapeutic for me, so that it wasn't a big thing for me to like take on such tasks. Whenever I clean, it's like deep cleaning. So I started with the kitchen. In our kitchen at the time, we had a glass table with, and it was in the shape of an octagon, and it had a wooden frame around it. Now that table had a hole in it. Usually, you know, when tables crack. When glass tables break, it shatters, falls apart. This one had a piece of glass just broken. Like, it cracked, and that particular piece of glass had fell out, and the rest of the table was still, you could still use it, but you know, it was time for it to go. So I decided, since I'm cleaning the kitchen, I'm gonna throw it out. My mom was home in her room or somewhere in another part of the apartment, so I usually never ask for help whenever doing these types of tasks. I figured I would just roll it onto each side until I got to the door and take it downstairs. So I was using my foot as leverage. So I slid my foot underneath the table, and I would have it on the side, and I would just, like, you know, turn it to each side. Every time, I guess with me doing that, it loosened up the frame, which made the glass crack in half, and the top half came down in my foot. Now the size of glass that went in my foot was probably like then half of the table in my foot. Now at that time, my mom came out of the room to kind of help me get things out of my way since I was moving this big table, and I saw the look on her face, and I'm like, you know, like, what's wrong? And she's like, you don't feel that? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? So she's like, you know, look down. I look down, and the glass shard is in my foot, and water is spraying every direction. So she lifts it off my foot, called the ambulance, and figured I was losing so much blood, she was trying to stop the blood from flowing. So she went and she got a towel, she got a white towel, like a regular size towel, and wrapped my foot up. I was bleeding so much that the blood strained out of the towel, and it was like a syrupy consistency. Took forever to get an ambulance. When the ambulance came, they needed to stop the blood, so they needed to like close the wound and like wrap it tight, so that once we get to the hospital, they can give me stitches to close the wound. So they were trying to close the top of my foot back together, but it was so wide open that it was damn near impossible. So they just left it. When I got to the hospital, they had to give me numbing injections, but they had to give me the injections inside of the wound. I think they gave me 3 before I was just like, I'm good, like, I'm good. So they were like, can you feel anything? And I'm like, nope, it's numb, you know, I'm good. During the time that they're stitching up my foot, I felt everything. Like, my foot actually wasn't numb, but I just couldn't stand the pain of having the actual needles in the wound. That I lied and said that it was numb. My mom had to lay on me, nurses had to lay on me, and they gave me 11 stitches, and I felt every puncture and every piece of thread going through my foot. So the scar has faded, but it definitely caused a bit of nerve damage from that injury. So yeah, I have a scar on my foot. The entire glass table fell in my foot. The next insane fact about me is I have 3 near-death experiences, all caused by trying to learn how to swim. The first one being the worst one. So I grew up in Belize. It's a tropical country. Oftentimes it was hot. We would go to the hotel to use their pool. So this day we went to the hotel with my stepdad. It was my stepdad, my 2 brothers, my little cousin, his stepdaughter, and me. So we were all there in the pool, and I asked him if he could teach me how to swim. Everyone else was in the pool swimming back and forth, having a good time, and I usually don't even play with water. I usually just sit on the sidelines. But this particular day, I wanted to kind of get out of my comfort zone and learn how to swim. So he started off by teaching me on the shallow end how to dog paddle. That was all fine and dandy. I knew that I needed to learn how to float, and I had like major trust issues, but again, I wanted to push myself and learn how to float. So he decided to take me towards the middle of the pool, like, you know, where the deep end and the shallow end meet. So in the middle of the pool, he has me and he's trying to teach me how to float. At that time, my brother decided that they wanted to play in the pool, so he jumped in the pool, the other one jumped in the pool, everyone jumped in the pool, and my stepfather was like Superman to us at the time. Like, he was like super strong, so everyone was jumping on him, trying to like weigh him down and pull him down in the water, not realizing that he's holding me, trying to teach me how to float. So he lets go of me because they're all on him, and at this point we're in the deep end. So he goes to take them into safety. Meanwhile, I am just slowly just drifting to the bottom of the pool, and all I knew was to just hold my breath. So I'm holding my breath, and I'm literally sitting on the bottom of the pool thinking, this is how I die. Like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna run out of air suit, and I'm gonna die, and no one sees me, no one knows I'm under here. I'm gonna die. I don't want to die. So I decided to do what he taught me, which is to dog paddle. So I start to dog paddle, and I make some headway, and I get to the top of the water, and I go to climb up on the ladder. While I go to climb up on the ladder, my brother, my youngest brother, he's climbing down the ladder. So him and I fall into the pool with the ladder in my hand, and back to the bottom of the pool I go. It didn't take long before my stepfather realized that he left me hanging pretty much, and he came and got me and, you know, took me to the side. And of course I was traumatized for years and years and years and years, growing up in a tropical country where there's beaches galore, there's keys and islands, and there's always something fun to do in the water. And after that experience, no bueno. Like, it just wasn't for me. It wasn't until recently, like a couple years ago, that I actually learned how to swim, but that near-death experience definitely had me shook. The next insane fact about me is I almost got shot in the face. I was a manager for a retail electronics store at the time, and this particular day, this customer came in at the store, usually electronic store like Best Buy, Radio Shack. They usually have cell phones for sale, and the employees usually make a commission to sell phones and the features and the gadgets that go with it, and then the case and all that type of stuff. So there was an emphasis on us being able to sell phones. This day, this particular customer came in. This guy came in. He came in, I greeted him, I asked him what he was looking for. He said he was looking for a phone for his girlfriend, but he couldn't decide on what model to get him, and he needed some time to just browse. So he's like, okay, you know, take your time. If you need help, I'll be at the counter. He's there for like a good 10 minutes, like looking at the phones. So I'm like, you know, have you narrowed it down? Is there anyone that, you know, you're leaning towards? Maybe I could explain the features to you. Maybe I could, if you know, let me know what she's gonna use it for. That way I could, you know, help you decide on which one to get. So at that point, his story switched, and when he was like, oh, you know, I've had this phone and I would like it to do this, this, and this, and I'm just like, oh, I thought the phone was for your girlfriend. He was like, yeah, for my girlfriend, but, you know, I'm just, you know, comparing it to the phone that I have. I'm like, okay, so, you know, you've been, as usually people come in here and they already know what they want, you know, you've been in here for a while, which one do you think you're gonna get? Or do you want to, like, you know, think it over and come back? At that point, I guess he realized that he had been in there long enough, so he leaned over to me and he said, tell the guy to put all the money in a plastic bag. And I'm looking at him like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So he's like, listen, I will blow your pretty face off if you don't tell him to put the money in the bag. Usually, very bold character. The thought of surviving getting shot in the face, but having to live with a scar, call me vain or not, is what actually convinced me to, it's not my problem. The store should be able to cover this. Let me tell my employee to just empty the cash register and put it in a bag for this insane guy. So that's what we did. We went over, emptied all the registers, put it in a plastic bag. I didn't actually see a gun. Of course, he had it in his jacket. It could have been his hand, but just being around someone for like 30 minutes, I'm trying to do a good job of like helping my customer, you know, being super friendly, and someone tell you they're gonna shoot you in the face, like I froze. So the guy ran out the store. We called 911. Cops came really quickly. Now in this particular area that I worked, it was in the financial district, so it was down by Wall Street. There's so many little back alleys and little streets and stuff like that. So the cops came, and it's also a really busy area with a lot of tourists. So when the cops came and they raided and they searched the area, I'm sure the guy probably just ran and just got on the train or something, but he was nowhere to be found. I had to go down to the precinct and look through thousands and thousands and thousands of mugshots. Like, it's insane. And the description that I gave him was like super generic, just because like I froze and I knew what the guy looked like, but because I was so shook, I couldn't think. So after going through thousands of profiles, they all pretty much seemed to look the same. The detectives weren't able to do anything about helping us to find who this person was, but the kicker was, this is the kicker, the electronics store that I worked at, that I managed, that sold cameras, security cameras, digital cameras, DSLR cameras, did not have surveillance cameras installed. Yeah, so they didn't have surveillance camera installed. So again, no way that we were able to find the person that robbed the store. I pretty much just quit. Not immediately, because I went through this whole tug of war thing with the company, trying to get them to install security cameras, and when they were dragging their foot about it, I just had to leave. You know, it was a matter of safety. I just had to leave. I couldn't do it anymore. So almost got shot in the face. Yeah. Next insane fact about me is I got stuck in a hot air balloon. Yeah. Very eventful life I've lived. Yeah. So my dad is a meteorologist in Belize, and back in the day, the way they used to collect their data for their weather is to let a balloon float. I don't quite remember what kind of data that picks up, but I just know that that was part of his routine at his job, was to release an air balloon a certain time of day and then take it down. This particular day, he asked me if I wanted to go in it. I was like, you know, it's my dad. Yeah, it seems like fun. So I got in the air balloon, and the balloon was released from the rooftop of the building that he worked at the airport. So he let the balloon out. I don't know if it was supposed to rain or about to rain. I just know that his job would have a lot of iguanas around, but when we went up there weren't any iguanas. Had I seen any iguanas, I would not have exited the staircase onto the roof, but when we went up there weren't any iguanas. For some reason, when he put me in the air balloon, the whole entire roof was like swarmed with iguanas, and I'm like terrified. So he's telling me to get out of the balloon, and I'm refusing to get out of the balloon. So he's just like, okay, you don't want to get out? Okay, I'll be back. And he pretty much just left me up there for what felt like forever. I'm sure it wasn't that long, but I definitely had to conjure up some courage and get over my fear of these ugly iguanas, and for him to pull me back down. But yeah, I got stranded in a hot air balloon. And the next insane fact about me is I got my first relaxer when I was 2 years old. Yes. So growing up in Belize, my mom had her own salon. She was a beautician. She was probably the baddest, slaying some hair. And as a beautician having a daughter, you want to make sure that your daughter has some hair, okay? So she thought it would be easier for her to manage if she relaxed my hair, and it worked. Growing up, I had really thick full hair. As I got older, of course, me taking on the sole responsibility of caring for my hair, fell out, it broke off, had a bunch of trauma and a bunch of shenanigans that led me to decide to transition back to my natural texture, and I have now been natural since 2009, so you do the math. So yeah, my first relaxer was at the tender age of 2. I definitely feel like I hold the Guinness World Record for earliest relaxer. I've been to plenty of natural hair events, and I've met plenty of naturals, and I've never heard anyone say they got a relaxer earlier than that, or even the age of 2. So let me know down below if you know anyone that got a relaxer earlier than I did. Yep, so those are the 10 remaining facts about me. The first 10 I shared in a blog post on my website, so definitely click the link down in the description box and it will take you straight to it, as well as the I up above. And I promise you the other facts are just as insane, including the fact that I was in a nationwide Jenny Craig campaign starring Mariah Carey, which turned out to be the worst experience in my life. Yes, it far surpasses my near-death experiences with drowning, as well as being threatened to get shot in the face. So definitely head over to my blog and read the first 10 insane facts about me. Like this video if you found it to be entertaining. Definitely share it with a friend or family member. And comment down below, let me know which fact you found to be the most shocking. Thank you guys for watching, and to everyone who's wished me a happy birthday on Instagram, on Snapchat, text message, I greatly appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for all of the love and support. Bye!